Hi, I'm Dave Min. I have the pleasure of representing California's 37th State Senate District right here in the heart of Orange County, a district that includes my home city of Irvine, as well as Anaheim Hills, Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, Laguna Woods, Lake Forest, Newport Beach, Orange, Tustin, and Villa Park. Now, for those of you who may need it, closed captioning is available on our website, sd37.sen.ca.gov. And this particular broadcast is being simulcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, I believe. And so thank you for joining my State of the District. As many of you know, this was my first year in office, and to state the obvious, it was an interesting year to take office and to have as a freshman senator. We were facing historic events, wildfires, we're facing a drought, the COVID-19 pandemic, a crisis of anti-Asian hate, and then the recent Orange County oil spill. But despite the many challenges of this year, I'm really proud of the many accomplishments that my office was able to achieve. And I want to give a shout out first and foremost to my staff. I have, I think, the best staff in California, maybe the best staff in the country. And I want to talk a little bit about what they've been able to do. But, I've seen firsthand the difficulties and challenges that our communities have experienced due to the many challenges our state has faced this year, not just at a social level or at an economic level, but really on a personal level. But I've also seen us rise above these circumstances. And I've seen the best of this district, the best of Orange County. And I'm glad that our office was able to help in getting Orange County across the finish line this year. So I just want to point out that we were able to propose 15 bills this year. 8 of those ended up going to the governor's office, and all 8 of those bills that crossed the governor's desk were signed into law. Without bragging about our record, that's an incredible track record for a first-year legislator. We were also able to steer nearly $35 million in direct appropriations for Orange County's priorities this year. And that's something that's actually very, very new, because in the past, Orange County was seen as a place that did not get state investments due to a lot of different factors, including maybe a lack of interest on the part of our previous representatives. We just did not get a lot of investment from the state. And so you may have seen the figure that Orange County received something like 6 cents for every dollar that we paid in state taxes, one of the worst figures in the state. And I think what this year has signaled is that that's going to change. So in addition to the $35 million in appropriations that I directly asked for, Orange County benefited from a number of different requests that I made. I was a principal co-author of SB 87, which seeded the California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant Program with $2.1 billion. Over $60 million came to Orange County because of that program. The small businesses, some of you watching may have benefited from that particular program. We were also able to shepherd nearly $250 million in funding to other projects and priorities in Orange County that I helped to request and helped to support. Additionally, as part of the State Senate's Budget Subcommittee on Education, I spent a lot of hours early on this year helping our K-12 schools and higher education institutions safely resume in-person instruction, and also to make sure that we were able to ensure equity and high-quality education in these institutions, including negotiating a massive increase in the number of slots at the University of California and CSU systems for in-state students while preventing tuition increases. Now, the 8 bills that I was able to get signed into law, you may have read about some of these. SB 264 prohibits the sale of firearms, ammunition, and ghost guns at the Orange County Fairgrounds, effectively ending gun shows there. SB 308 simplifies the process for transferring unclaimed property to the state for safekeeping, making it easier for those of us who have unclaimed property to reclaim it. SB 374 adds reproductive coercion to the definition of domestic violence, which is absolutely crucial because we're the first state in the union to do this. Those who study domestic violence know that reproductive coercion is the infringement on a woman's reproductive autonomy is an all too common form of domestic violence, but courts have not typically recognized this. By recognizing it statutorily, by defining it as part of domestic violence, by naming it, we are hopefully providing those victims, those survivors, with access to the tools to get out of those abusive relationships. SB 391 allows HOAs, homeowners associations, to meet virtually during times of emergencies, such as wildfires or COVID-19 pandemics or future pandemics that might make it unsafe to meet. SB 500 requires all autonomous vehicles to be zero emission by 2030. I think that's critical as we try to wean ourselves off fossil fuels. SB 512 expands access to higher education for current and former foster youth. SB 607 increases efficiency and provides clarifying authority for business licensing programs to continue to do their important work. And SB 654 will save lives by requiring judges to consider a history of abuse when placing children in unsupervised visitation situations. And I think that's crucial as far as child safety. So in any event, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff we handled this year, and aside from our legislation and what we're doing going forward. Now, a lot of you I know are very concerned about the oil spill that we just experienced just a little less than 2 weeks ago, a disaster that, by the way, never should have happened. Now, as you may have seen, my team and I were on the ground on day one. We've been following this closely since. We've been talking with the governor and ensuring that our first responders have had the resources that they need to effectively respond. And I will say that I was incredibly impressed by the collaboration between federal, state, and local agencies. If you were following closely, you saw that we boomed up our shore and our protected coastal areas almost within hours. And as a result, we were able to avoid the worst of the worst. You may have also seen that we dodged a bullet here in that the spill was significantly smaller than originally anticipated. And it's closer to 24,000 gallons than the original worst case estimate of 133,000 gallons. And, I think this is, while it's a disaster, it is much better than it could have been. We're still going to deal with the cleanup, with the ecological consequences for some weeks to come. But this is not, at this point, it's clear this is not going to be as disastrous as the Refugio Beach, the spill that happened there back in 2015 off the coast of Santa Barbara. So I want to thank my partners in the state agencies, particularly the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the OSPR, the U.S. Coast Guard, and others for all their work in responding to this crisis and preventing this from being much worse than it could have been. I think our mission right now is to ensure that there's accountability for those who might have committed fault here, to ensure that civil and criminal liability are attached, that those who committed wrong are held accountable. But then we have to go further and make sure that we never have a disaster like this again. And the only way that we can do that, I'm going to talk more about this, is to make sure that we never have oil drilling off the coast of California again. The costs simply don't justify the benefits. I also want to talk about climate change, what we're doing here. As I've said before, climate change is a scourge of our lifetimes. It's the challenge of our lifetimes. And we need to get ourselves off fossil fuels as quickly as possible. As bad as this year was, and we talked about historic droughts, historic wildfires, historically high temperatures, this is 100 years from now going to be the coolest year we experience over the next 100 years. In 100 years, this will be seen as a uniquely benign year, one in which the weather events that we've experienced will be seen as the good old days. And that's if we commit right now to an aggressive strategy of trying to reduce carbon emissions. If we do nothing, large parts of this world are going to be uninhabitable in 100 years, in 50 years, maybe less. The scientists that study this stuff closely predict a 10 degrees Fahrenheit average increase in temperature if we don't take immediate aggressive action to reduce carbon emissions. So we are in a climate emergency and we have to take action. And so I'm proud to have supported every single environmental bill that crossed my desk that I was able to vote on. We additionally allocated $5 million to something called the Sustainability Decathlon, which will be a competition with California's best and brightest, which will also attract leading scientists from across the world to try to design and build green energy powered homes, zero emission homes, all electric homes. And hopefully this will result not only in tourism dollars in Orange County, but in serious innovation that we can then adapt and utilize for home building across the state and across the globe. It's this type of innovation that I'm really focused on, because while I support the mandates that my colleagues have put in place, we will not meet these mandates realistically without innovation. And we need more investment. We need to treat this like the serious challenge it is. We need to invest in it. We need to invest directly in R&D. We need to invest in public-private partnerships, because this is a challenge that if we don't meet it head on, if we don't put our money where our mouths are, we are not going to meet it. And our children, our grandchildren, our great-great-grandchildren are going to look to us and say, what did you do? And we don't want that answer to be nothing. I also want to shift gears and talk a little bit about small businesses and the economy. Now, some of you know I was a Wharton undergraduate, a business undergrad, and I started my career before law school as a failed entrepreneur. I was a startup guy, and we ran into the 2001 downturn, and we got our Series A funding pulled. But I have a firsthand appreciation for the blood, sweat, tears, and capital that entrepreneurs and small business owners put into trying to make a buck, trying to hire employees, trying to build something. It's a huge endeavor, and it's critical for our national economy, for our state economy, and particularly here in Orange County. We know that small businesses really are the engine of our economy. Now, this year we faced incredible challenges. COVID-19 has made it difficult for large swaths of small businesses to succeed. And I've heard so many of your stories from small businesses firsthand in my visits to businesses and the many business roundtables we've held, as well as the events we've held with the Chambers of Commerce, with Orange County Business Council, and other business groups. As I mentioned, I was proud to be a principal author of SB 87, which seeded and helped foster this California Small Business Relief Grant Program for COVID-19 with $2.1 billion. That figure was later doubled to nearly $4 billion. And I know that in this district, 5,000 different businesses received over $60 million in funding. In addition to that, I was proud to be a co-author of AB 80, which granted PPP conformity, allowing California to achieve tax conformity for the most part with the federal government's PPP loans. And I know that many of you are glad that you didn't receive a state tax bill for doing the right thing and taking those federal loans and keeping your employees around. I also want to announce that next year I'll be co-authoring a bill that I voted for this year. My colleague's bill, SB 415, Andreas Borges, which is a bill that would provide a pathway to regulatory relief for small businesses that accidentally, without harm, break one of the many, many regulations you're subject to. We need to make it easier for small businesses to succeed in California, and that's a mission of mine. Now, when I was running for office, I'll say that I did not anticipate spending so much of my time fighting bigotry and anti-Asian hate. But unfortunately, COVID-19 brought not only a pandemic, not only an economic downturn, but also really severe social tensions, including a rise in anti-Asian hate, both in words and actions. And, whether it was Donald Trump's statement, repeated statements as this was a China virus, the Kung flu brought over by, Chinese Americans or Chinese, we saw so many attacks on Asian Americans, which had followed on the attacks on African Americans, Latinos, LGBTs, Muslims, and Jews. And, I've spent a lot of time, over 100 events at this point, fighting hate, fighting bigotry. And so I'm proud that I was a supporter of ethnic studies, which is so important for ensuring that our state teaches the right thing. Now, a lot of people have mischaracterized ethnic studies as being against certain forms of history, and that is not what I voted for, and I will take steps to make sure that is not what is implemented. What I voted for and what I want to see is outreach, history, teaching that people like me, that my Muslim and Jewish and Black and brown brothers and sisters, that their history matters too, because I think that's important as we try to conquer this rise in hate, that is this racial hate, this ethnic hate, this religious hate, this anti-gender hate that is so noxious right now in our society. We were also able to pass the API equity budget, a historic 3-year investment of $156 million in California's API community, which is going to fund outreach, it's going to fund community service, and other critical resources in response to this surge in anti-Asian hate. There's a saying that budgets are a reflection of our values. And I think until this point, it's safe to say that California did not put its money towards the cause of promoting and protecting Asian Americans in the state. And I think this budget matters to so many Asian Americans because it is a signal that Asian Americans do matter, that the budget reflects that. It's not just words, it's not just platitudes, but we are putting our money where our mouth is. Now, I want to shift from there. DV and child protection, and those of you who've been following me know that family safety, child safety, these are critical issues to me. And so I'm so proud that I authored 654, SB 654, as I mentioned before, which was signed into law, which requires judges to make a finding of a history of abuse before ordering unsupervised visitations between a child and a parent with a history of abuse. This bill is going to save lives. It's going to save lives like the 2 children that were murdered by their father who had a history of substance and domestic abuse and was still awarded unsupervised visitations in Sacramento just a couple years ago, and the myriad of situations like that. This bill was supported by Dylan Farrow, Angelina Jolie, and many others, and I was proud to have authored it and have it signed into law. I was also proud to author and pass SB 374, which, as I mentioned, is the first bill that recognizes reproductive coercion, something that 1 in 3 women experience in domestically abusive relationships. Now, I want to switch over to questions soon, but I just wanted to give a shout out to my district office here, which has done so much work on behalf of the constituents of this district. Since I took office in January of 2021, we've helped 2,300 constituents directly, with 1,600 of those receiving our help and expediting their cases through the Employment Development Department, EDD, receiving their EDD benefits. 1,500 plus of those EDD claims have been received due to the help of our office. We've held over 14 town halls and webinars, 27 roundtables with leaders and community members throughout the district, and several hundred meetings between myself and my staff. I think it's 568 is the number I have in front of me. So this is what we've been up to. Elections matter. Elections have consequences. And I hope you get a sense that we're active. We're trying to represent you all in the values of Orange County. We also are trying to help you in your situation. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us and our staff. I want to thank you for your engagement in our community. This is an amazing district that I have the privilege of representing, and I'm grateful for your presence, your engagement in our community. With that, I want to take questions and open it up to whatever you might have to say. Okay, let me start with this one right here. What steps can we take to end offshore drilling? So if you've been following me, you might have seen that, and by the way, feel free to post your questions in chat if you haven't. We're taking them through, but you may have seen that I've called for a state end to drilling of all kinds in state waters. And that includes under existing oil leases. And I've called for our federal representatives to do something similar. Now, you may have heard about a lot of people call for a moratorium on new drilling off the coast of California. And that sounds great and it's important, but it is not sufficient. The reality of the matter is that a new lease for offshore drilling off the coast of California has not happened since 1982 in federal waters and 1969 in state waters. The fact of the matter is that every single oil spill we've had in California waters since 1969 has occurred in existing leases. So a moratorium would not actually have stopped any of these oil spills that we've experienced. 2015, 2009, 2007, 2021. So if we want to end the risk of oil spills and the devastating impacts they have on our economy, on our beaches, on our ecosystems, there's only one way to do that, and that's by ending all oil drilling, including and especially oil drilling done through existing leases. And there is a pathway to do that. I've called on my colleagues throughout Orange County to do this. We have announced that we're going to do this, and I plan to introduce legislation in January. We're working through the details right now to make that happen. And so there's a lot of politics involved. It's a complicated matter, but you will see me introduce legislation. You have my word on this in January, and I'm hopeful that we can push it through the finish line, because the fact of the matter is that the economics of this don't make sense. Aside from the fact that we need to wean ourselves off fossil fuels, offshore drilling represents less than 0.3%, less than 1/3 of 1% of all oil production across the United States. That just is not enough to justify the incredible risk that this poses to our economy. California's coastal economy accounts for over $44 billion each year. It employs 500,000 Californians. And so the risk-reward calculus here just doesn't make any sense. We have to end this, and I'm hopeful I can convince my colleagues, even those who don't represent coastal communities, that this is the right thing to do, and it's the economically sensible thing to do. And by the way, I've been in touch with my federal colleagues, Katie Porter, Mike Levin, Alan Lowenthal, Luke Correa, and others, and Michelle Steele, to make sure that they're trying to do the right thing as well. What did you not get done this year that you'd like to accomplish in 2022? Oh, gosh. So you may have seen that we passed a ban on gun shows on the Orange County Fairgrounds, but that was originally meant to apply to all state properties and to be a statewide ban. So that's one thing I'd like to see accomplished, and it's something I've already promised to introduce, is that we're going to take this win and end gun shows in Orange County, which we've done, but we're also going to try next year to ban all gun shows on all statewide properties, because the state has to get out of this blood money. Yes, there's a Second Amendment. People have a right to bear arms, but the state does not have to be complicit in this. And given what we know about the connection between more gun sales, and more gun violence, there is no good reason why the state of California should effectively be subsidizing the sale and distribution of guns into our communities. Look, we make some money off this. That money is dwarfed by the moral and economic costs of gun violence, which is just an epidemic in our country. It's not just the gun massacres that happen occasionally. It's the daily gun violence episodes that we don't see in the papers. The accident, the child picking up a gun and shooting someone on accident. It's the suicides. It's the disputes that turn into an attack, sometimes a murder, oftentimes just an injury. Gun violence is ubiquitous in our society, and we need to end it. I also want to make sure that we are doing what we can to end and deal with the scourge of cybersecurity. Now, some of you may have seen I started a cybersecurity select committee. I myself was a victim of hacks twice this year. I was subject to the University of California data breach, which hit, as I understand it, all current UC employees and many former employees, a large swath of students and their families. And so myself, my kids are on the dark web right now. Our social security numbers, our identifying information is on the dark web. I was also hit months later by the T-Mobile hack. And at this point, we've got to deal with this responsibly. The state of California has to lead. We're holding hearings starting in early November, and we're hoping that this will lead to legislation that will help crack down on and address the problem of cybersecurity, identity theft, and ransomware that are plaguing our society right now. Okay, we've got, let's see, another question here. Would it help California off of fossil fuels if there was an expanded statewide program encouraging solar, wind, and other alternative power sources? Absolutely. Thank you for the question. This is from Dana. And I think one of the things I'd emphasize, as I said before, is I think we do a lot with mandates here. But if we really want to conquer this, the analogy I use is the Apollo program. JFK made the pledge that we needed to get a man on the moon or a person on the moon within a decade. And we committed a lot of resources to this. We made it a priority. And in less than 10 years, in 7 years, in fact, we were able to conquer that technology gap, and we were able to get people on the moon within 7 years. And we have a similar challenge in front of us. How do we conquer this challenge of climate change, which frankly is a much bigger challenge than getting someone to the moon? How do we get ourselves off fossil fuels in a way that does not sap our economic strength? How do we, try to adapt to the effects of climate change that we know are coming? And I think that we have to invest seriously in renewable energy sources and all the different batteries and all the different forms of innovation we're going to need to maintain our standard of living while as quickly as possible, weaning ourselves off fossil fuels and reducing and eliminating carbon emissions. Let's see here. What is my vision? What is your vision for the economy post-COVID and long-term recovery? So I think I mentioned that one of the things we're looking at is transitioning from fossil fuels and investing in renewable energy. And actually, my vision is that Orange County is actually an ideal place for this to be an epicenter for green innovation. I grew up in Silicon Valley, and this region right now, Orange County, has all the hallmarks of Silicon Valley back in the 1980s. It's got good schools, it's got an educated workforce, it's a great place to live, as we all know. And we've got a burgeoning financial infrastructure, VC, investment infrastructure, plenty of wind, sunshine, and ocean. There's no reason why we should not be ground zero for all these innovations. And so one of my missions over the next 3 years or longer, if you'll have me, is to try to help transition this space into a green innovation center, a green Silicon Valley. And to do that, I think we're going to need to invest. We're going to need private-public partnerships. We're going to need public-sponsored incubators. We're going to need to support the private sector in trying to make this happen. Another key thing that I want to focus on is college affordability. It was much to my chagrin that AB 1064 this year, maybe it was AB 1015, which would have revised the Cal Grant program to essentially take a serious step towards making college debt-free for California residents, young people, that was vetoed by Governor Newsom. And as I tweeted and put on Facebook the other day, I think this was the wrong decision by Governor Newsom, because investing in our future is critical if we want to continue our sustained prosperity. There's a saying that a lot of you heard me say on the campaign trail last year: a civilization is great when its elders plant trees whose shade they know they will never sit in. And we're seeing that right now. California's uniquely strong economic robustness through this pandemic is due to one fact, that we invested heavily in higher education in the past. And those college graduates of the UCs, CSUs, and our community colleges are fueling our economic robustness right now. If we want to maintain our economic strength going forward, we have to keep investing in education. It's the best investment, pound for pound, that we can make. And so I think Governor Newsom here was being penny wise and pound foolish. We really ought to be doing all we can to make college affordable and avoid saddling our students, our young people, with crippling amounts of college debt that prevent them from realizing their potential, prevent them from creating the next Microsoft or Google or Facebook, because we know that happens when you empower and free our young people and remove that burden of crippling college debt. Okay. City of Irvine just officially proclaimed October as Hindu Heritage Month, and nearly 20 states and major cities have done the same. We request you to honor this too. Will you declare October Hindu Heritage Month as our state senator representing tens of thousands of Hindu Americans? I would be delighted to. Let me look into it. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't do that. So you have my tentative pledge. I think it makes sense, and I would love to be the tip of the spear on recognizing the Hindu community, which is an amazing community that I've gotten to know well. And thank you for that question, Arti. But one of the things I want to segue to is it is our diversity that makes us so strong here in Orange County. It makes our economy strong. It makes our culture great. It makes our palates great. I mean, I missed the Global Village Festival, I think a week or two ago, because I was out of town. But, we in Irvine get to experience that. We in Orange County get to experience just this incredible diversity. And that makes us stronger, makes us better. And it's one of the unique things about America, about Orange County, that has always been a source of strength for us. It's the reason we won the Cold War It's the reason that we have had the greatest economy on the earth. It's the reason that we are the greatest country in the history of the world. And I think it is the backlash against that diversity that is sapping us right now, sapping our strength and creating division. And so I will say I will always be there to champion inclusivity, diversity, and those values, because those are important to me. They're important to, I know, to the constituents I represent, but also because it's the right thing to do. Let's see here. Next question I've got, and feel free. I'm just got a couple of questions left here. What surprised me most? What surprised you the most working in Sacramento? Now this is kind of a weird answer, but I will say that aside from catching COVID my first week, which was definitely a surprise, the thing that surprised me the most about working in Sacramento has been the bipartisanship and collegiality. And I think it may be in part because we have a Democratic supermajority, but the Republicans we have in the Senate, unlike the ones you see maybe in Congress or in many parts of the country, for the most part are very, very friendly. They're collegial. They work well with us. And that creates an environment where I think we're all looking for the best solutions. And I was actually very, very pleasantly surprised by the problem-solving attitude that so many of my colleagues had. Now, we're not always going to agree. You know, I represent Orange County. Some of my colleagues represent Los Angeles or San Francisco or, Kern County. And we're going to come from different perspectives and have different viewpoints to represent. But I will say that I would say like 95% of our state Senate really comes at this with the attitude of what can we do to make our constituents better? What can we do to make California better? And I think that's really, really just such a refreshing attitude. I used to work in D.C., and I can tell you that for Senator Schumer and then for a think tank, and I can tell you that's very much not the attitude that dominates Washington, D.C. right now. And, they say that California leads the nation. I'm so hopeful that this will be a trend that, eventually catches on in Washington, because the gridlock and partisan bickering we see there is very depressing and I think it's disheartening. And I can tell you that at least what I've seen in California so far is very, very different from that. Okay, I think we have time for one last question. So let me see what I've got here. Oh, here's one. And this is a third rail issue. The approval SB 9 and SB 10 doesn't ensure that any newly built units will be affordable. In fact, the two bills, the first thing I came up when I Googled this was an ad for homestead.com or .is, which purports to help homeowners split their properties in 57 different configurations at no cost to the homeowner and generate $300,000 plus for the owner. Instead of advancing that legislation, doesn't it make more sense to require all developers of apartments and townhome units of greater than 10 units to make 20% of their units affordable, or require owners to accept vouchers for 10% of their units? So this gets a little complicated, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, other than you're welcome to reach out to us, and I'm happy to answer this more at length. SB 9 and SB 10 attempted to try to create more housing, and I did vote for both of these bills. SB 9 allowed for lot splitting under limited circumstances if a local jurisdiction permitted it. It's a permissive bill with certain restrictions to prevent, say, hedge funds or investment banks or other investors from trying to exploit this. SB 10 creates zones around transit hubs where density can be built, I think up to 10 units within a certain footage around a transit hub, like a train station or a bus depot, but not necessarily a bus stop or road or anything like that. And the goal of these is to try to build more housing. And the person that asked this question is correct that they don't impose affordability standards on this. These bills are estimated to create roughly 80,000 new units across the state. So they're going to be limited in scope just because of the different limitations that were put in there that a lot of the media is not reporting on. But I agree with the premise of the question that we need to do more on affordable housing. And if you look at my record, I have pushed for more investment in affordable housing. But the fact of the matter is that affordable housing, that is to say, housing that is affordable to those who are making 50% or less of the average income, those who are low income or very low income, that's not enough, because we also face a workforce housing crisis where our police officers our teachers, our nurses, students, folks who've just graduated from college and are entering the workforce also can't afford to live in most of the areas in California that have jobs, whether it's Silicon Valley, whether it's Los Angeles, and yes, these days, Orange County. And so what we have to do is not just build low-end housing for those who are low income. We have to build more housing, period. Those of you who have young people, seniors that are looking to relocate or change residences, you know how difficult it is to find housing here that's, say, less than $2,000 a month, less than $1,500 a month. It is almost impossible. And so what you end up with is finding students who like quad up or have 6 students in a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment and kind of subdivide in ways that it's not meant to be. You have seniors struggling to pay their rent because so much of it is going to their rent. And we're facing a legitimate crisis here in California. The number one reason, I'll say, the latest statistics show that Californians are not mostly leaving the state, but we're facing somewhat of an exodus. And the number one reason that people are leaving this state is because of the high cost of housing. That's been quantified in a number of different studies and polls. We have a lot of work to do on taxes, on our regulatory environment, but that's not what's driving people out of the state. It is our housing costs. And I for one, am worried that when my kids, who are now 10, 8, and 5, graduate from high school or college and enter the workforce, they're not going to be able to afford to live in Orange County because that's the reality for students today. We have a lot of work to do. And yes, a lot of it is building affordable housing, subsidized housing. The thing I try to do with the bill, SB 719, that would have had 20% affordable housing for low and very low income households in Tustin. But we need to also just build housing, period, for our basic workforce needs. And so I'm happy to talk with the person who asked this question. But we need housing across the board. It's not kept up with population growth. And that's one of the main reasons why housing costs have gone up so dramatically, why our housing values, which we enjoy, have gone up so much. That has been a double-edged sword, which has severely impacted our economic growth going forward. It's harmed our young people and elder population. It's prevented new businesses from succeeding here in California. So we've got a lot of work to do. And I realize that it's hard to make hard decisions like this, but I think this was the right decision. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time in joining us. We're here for you. I just want to say again that our Senate website is sd37.sen.ca.gov. We're also available to call. We're here for you. We've got an exciting agenda planned for next year. In addition to cybersecurity and offshore drilling bans, we're also planning a suite of domestic violence bills that we'll be doing and introducing in January. And I guess most importantly, I just again want to thank you for your valued contributions to our community and our district. But with that, I look forward to talking with you next time. And thanks so much. But the state of the district is good and hopefully getting better.